You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we'll be talking role reversals in FAB Facts.
We are fighting to clear our name in the Randomiser.
and Mark Woollard gives us the lowdown on 3 decades of working with Gerry Anderson.
Cool, that's all coming up in Pod 117
of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well, Richard James.
Hey, Jamie Anderson.
Pod 117.
Yeah, it's a goodie, isn't it? I can feel it already.
Well, I mean, it is good because we've had some recent good and exciting news.
Yeah, well, listen, the thing is, Jamie, I very often say, don't I, that there's brand new stuff being made right now. And do people believe me? Do they eckers like?
Well, I mean, generally they do. They do say those things, and and you're right, and they were right to believe you.
Yes.
Before we get on to that, I'm Jamie Anderson. You are?
Richard James, and we're here for the Gerry Anderson podcast for the next hour and a half or so. Shall I just give them a rundown of what to expect in the next few?
Richard, I would love nothing more than that. Please do that now.
Then just for you and just for the listeners at home, here's what's coming up. We've got Chris Dale and his amazing Randomiser a little later on, of course, whereby he sits down in front of a random episode of a Gerry Anderson series and gives us his thoughts and comments. We've got news from the Gerry Anderson universe, including something that you may now be fully aware of. We've got an interview with Mark Woollard that Jamie's been speaking to. And we've got FAB Facts coming up a little later on. And, of course, some comments and reviews and suggestions from our lovely Podsterons, our listeners, who have been emailing us in at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, talking on our Facebook group and tweeting us too and hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. I'm out of breath.
Cool. I'm not surprised with all that stuff going on.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Now, something which left me breathless.
Right. Are we going to talk about that now?
Well, yeah, I'm talking about First Action Bureau, aren't I?
So. Oh, yeah, First Action Bureau. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
So if you haven't yet heard about this, First Action Bureau is a brand new free full cast audio drama series which is dropping in podcast platforms all over the world on the 1st of October.
Great.
It stars Genevieve Gaunt and Patterson Joseph and Sacha Dhawan and Nicola Walker and 2 blokes I think you might have heard of before. Richard James and Wayne Forrester.
Yeah, they sound familiar. Yeah.
I think they've got an Anderson connection. Anyway,
a cast.
Yeah, it's a lovely cast, written and created by me and Nick Briggs, taking in some, a lot of influences from Gerry Anderson stuff, both made and unmade. You'll become more and more familiar with those as time goes on. But the most important thing you can do to help support this new thing, which has a life beyond audio, we'll just say that. But this is a nice free way for you to get acquainted with the Bureau and its members.
Yep.
What you can do right now is search First Action Bureau on your podcast platform of choice. Subscribe, so you can make sure you get the upcoming teasers, and when the episodes drop, you get those straight away.
Great.
But also, once you've done that, screenshot the page and post it on social media with the hashtag First Action Bureau. That's all spelt out. FIRSTACTIONBUREAU. Won't be spelling that again in a hurry. And as we've done in previous weeks with other screenshot competitions, I will pick some winners to get something rather special. I can't tell you what the special thing will be.
Right.
But on the 13th of September, which is Breakaway Day, I will pick a couple of winners. And we'll get you some goodies just for sharing the message about First Action Bureau because we're rather excited about it.
Yeah, great. Amazing.
Now, this does absolutely sit in the world of Gerry Anderson. And you may have read some other information about that and how it sits there. But I'm not going to go into that right now because we've got other things to do. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about First Action Bureau in due course.
Yeah.
But until we do talk about it some more, Richard, would you like a fab fact?
Honestly?
Yes.
Go on then.
Okay.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Fab Facts, Richard. Now, interestingly, here's a micro Fab Fact for you at the start. First Action Bureau, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's actually FAB, isn't it?
What?
I mean, that is a coincidence, but it's funny you didn't notice that the whole time that we were recording and all that sort of stuff.
No, that is clever. That went right over my head.
But now you know. It's a little nod to Gerry Anderson fans across the Anderson universe, which we really liked, and also it was, perfect for the theme of the story.
Yeah.
But you'll find all that out in due course. In the meantime, we're going to go to the standard definition of Fab Facts, which is I've got a book of Fab Facts. I'm going to flick through the book. Richard will shout Fab. I'll stop flicking on a page when he says Fab, and then I'll read you a Fab Fact from that page. Are you ready, Richard James?
Yes, I'm ready.
Thank goodness for that. Here we go.
Fab!
Oh, you waited right till the end.
I left it, you see? I left it.
Cool. Okay, well, that means that it ends up being one of these summary facts about multiple things and shows.
Right.
So I think you're going to like this one, actually, because it may end up talking about a show which you're somewhat familiar with.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Always.
Then here we go. These days, Richard, it's not uncommon for actors on major shows to try their hand at behind the camera roles too, is it? Like writing and directing, all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
In fact, in First Action Bureau, I believe that director Nick Briggs may possibly do a little turn on the mic a couple of times as well. So there you go.
Yeah, true enough. Yes.
In the Anderson universe, however, very few cast members ever got to spread their creative wings into other fields. And in fact, if you discount Dad and Sylvia, we can discount them because they were the bosses, so they could do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, fair enough.
Only 2 regular cast members ever got to take on writing or directing responsibilities.
Ah, right. I think I know one already, but yes, go on.
And you almost certainly will. The only Anderson actor ever to direct an episode of an Anderson show was Robert Vaughn.
Ah, okay, right.
Yeah, who, of course, directed everyone's favourite Protectors episode about dog poo in Malta.
It really is that good, yeah.
What a classic. The only Anderson actor to write scripts for an Anderson show was, of course, the late, great
Shane Rimmer.
Shane Rimmer, who penned multiple episodes of Captain Scarlet, Joe 90, The Secret Service, and The Protectors.
Amazing.
He also did the screenplay for The Investigator, I think.
Did he now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
In Shane's later years, he also wrote a novel, if you remember, a golfing-related novel, because he was a big golfing fan. And obviously, 1 or 2 other Anderson cast members have done that later in their careers too.
Well, yeah, true.
Most notably, obviously, Liz Morgan, who, of course, has written some historical novels about Wales. And, of course, Richard, as we both know, there's that well-known Space Precinct actor who was there from the very first episode.
Right,
and has since gone on to write a series of highly successful novels.
Yeah, God.
And that person, of course, is the one and only Lana Citron, who played the humanoid form of Alicia in Double Duty.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yes. I knew that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nobody else who's done anything novelly who's in Space Precinct, is there?
Well, I mean, no, I suppose not.
No, exactly. Fine. So, yeah, clever Lana.
Right.
But, Richard, there are 2 other Anderson actors.
Oh, yes.
Who had aspirations to write scripts for the shows they appeared in.
Yeah.
Michael Billington, that's UFO's Colonel Paul Foster.
Yeah.
He had an idea for an episode that Dad actually seemed to like. But unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. And he actually later forgot what it was about. So,
right, okay, that's useful.
That's not great, is it? Shame.
Yeah.
The other was Lavender Castle voice artist Jimmy Hibbert, who wrote for the 2nd season of Lavender Castle, but ultimately, sadly, that was never made.
Yes, what a shame.
So there you go.
Well.
Look at all those people crossing over from, in front of the camera to behind it and writing scripts and writing novels and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, I wonder, well, firstly, there's a couple of points there, isn't there? I think it's a natural thing for actors, particularly at the moment when work is so scarce because theatres are closing and so on, to look beyond their usual sort of skill set to see what else they can do in the sort of creative arts, and that might include writing novels or voice work or writing scripts and so on. Also, I would like to point, is it really a good idea for actors to write scripts for shows they're in? I don't know about that. I just sometimes think, don't you just leave that to the writers? What do you think?
Possibly. I mean, there are people who are multi-talented and can do all sorts. I mean, Simon Pegg writing for stuff. I mean, he's done some decent.
That's slightly different though, because he sort of originated the concept and the series that he's worked on, as it's Spaced famously. But if he were in something, I mean, I've done TV series, and I don't think I would ever. I don't think I'd ever want to write an episode. Nor
So,
would
Richard
I
James, you're saying you would never write content for something you'd been in?
Now, at a distance, yes, but not at the time. That's what I'm saying.
Because
it's a
of
very subtle
course,
difference.
we did skip over you there. Not only has Richard James written a series of Victorian detective fiction novels called Bowman of the Yard, but he's also adapted Space Precinct Demeter City, the original pilot episode, into a novel, which actually was released on paperback and ebook 2 days ago. We'll get into that in the news, excitingly.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
So, yes, it's not just those. There is an edition of Richard James, but I think that is probably it in terms of people crossing over and crossing out, isn't it? But I know what you mean,
maybe.
yeah. A kind of director, lead actors or writer actors can be challenging.
Well, I mean, we could mention Picard here, couldn't we? I think there's a little too much dabbling there, in my humble opinion.
Because Patrick Stewart's in the writer's room, isn't he?
Yeah, and I just don't think it works, I'm afraid. I think we should leave the writers to write and the actors to act.
Gosh.
That's just me, yep.
Absolutely. Well, everyone's allowed their opinions. But if they differ from Richard James's, then he will hunt you down. And no, he won't really. No, I know what you mean. There's no right way, but I think that way danger lies, potentially.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway, right, I think that's it, isn't it?
I think that's probably it.
The end of this week's Cross Fact.
Yeah, good. I mean, that's cross as in not as in angry. That's like crossing over from one side of the studio floor to the other.
Yeah, although I did think you were getting a bit cross at the end there about
I was
Picard and stuff. But anyway, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
No. Yeah, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. You must, as we discussed last week, subscribe to us right now.
Yes.
All right.
You must do that. And also, you must subscribe to First Action Bureau. It's a free podcast, as we've talked about. And you also must do a screenshot and share it on social media with the hashtag First Action Bureau. And you might as well tag me and Richard and Gerry Anderson TV while you're there. That would be great.
Absolutely, yes. Look forward to seeing all your tags and pictures over on social media. Talking to social media, I will be reading out some messages for the rest of this podcast. We've had people emailing us in at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. For example, Ed Dutcher says it's always a treat when someone does a deep dive into Space 1999, and the interview some weeks back with Professor Brian Cox and Robin Ince was certainly no exception. He says, I experienced Space 1999 here in the States on its initial run in 1975 and was instantly hooked, not only by the spectacular effects, but also the intriguing storylines. Series 1 presented thought-provoking stories that we were not used to seeing on American TV at the time. Couple that with the nostalgic Barry Gray music that subconsciously sent me back to my childhood in the 1960s watching classic Super Marination shows. Well, there's just no way I wouldn't be drawn in, he says. I enjoyed Series 2 as well for different reasons, but that's a story for a future email. Well, keep up the good work. And that's from Ed Dutcher. Well, Ed, do get in touch. Tell us what you thought about Season 2 of Space 1999. Did it disappoint, or did you enjoy it all the more?
I reckon it'll be the former. Yeah. And also, have you tried the Big Finish audio adaptations of Space 1999?
Absolutely.
We'd love to know.
Stephen Watson. That's right. Good morning, gentlemen, says Stephen Watson. Thank you very much for the new Captain Scarlet episode, Best of Enemies, which was shown for free on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel. He said, I really enjoyed it. And I'll have to get the Blu-ray, I expect, as I never knew it existed until I started listening to the podcast.
Gosh,
well, there you go.
That's crazy, isn't it?
During dinner, says Stephen, turning very formal all of a sudden, I suddenly went, and did a quick interweb lookup and wondered if there's a deliberate choice here with the name Conrad Black, Captain Black's first name being Conrad. He says it isn't the most common name, is it? And he did a quick search and came up with Conrad Black being a Canadian-born British former newspaper publisher, writer and convicted fraudster, also the owner of the Daily Telegraph. Loving the podcast as always, very best wishes, Stephen Watson, a.k.a. the Podsteron. Yeah, did your dad have any battles with the Telegraph, do you think, and wanted to put in a sly reference there to Conrad Black?
No, not in this case.
No, that's right.
That is pure coincidence. However, as with many characters in the Gerry Anderson universe, Dad often drew inspiration from real life. In fact, we were talking about this very thing last week, although this is slightly more personal. So quite often names would creep in. Certainly in his later years, a lot of work that Dad was doing on projects like Lightspeed, which we haven't really talked about, we will do one day,
right.
included Commander Begg, named after Steve Begg.
Okay, yeah.
And there would quite regularly be references to surnames of colleagues that he liked and worked with for a long time.
Yeah.
When coming up with a name for a baddie, However, Dad flew on a slightly
Yes.
more negative experience. I believe he had a bit of a tussle with a man on Space Precinct called Roger Lefcon. Do you remember him?
Right. Yes, I do.
And
yes.
I think in Dad's view, he was responsible for some of the negative aspects of the production.
Yeah.
And so, yes, Captain Black's name is actually Conrad Lefcon. And that is a nod to Roger Lefcon and basically saying, in Dad's mind, that he was a baddie.
Yes,
Now, obviously,
that's
these
right.
are personal opinions of a deceased man, so I don't think there's anything slanderous there. I'm just repeating his opinion and where he got the name from. So there you go. Interesting route to getting Captain Black's name.
Yeah, it really is. Also, Stephen got in touch again. He sent us a picture of a poster saying, "Hello again, Jamie, Richard. I came across this poster this morning and thought, wow, was there a film or one planned? The boys will know. I mused." And he sent us a picture of a poster for Destination Moonbase Alpha, which is a poster showing, there's Commander Koenig there and Dr. Helena Russell and Maya. So I'm guessing it was some sort of Season 2 Space 1999 spin-off movie. What was that about? Any idea?
Yes, it was one of the, in the sort of late 80s and early 90s, they would take multiple TV shows and recut them to make sort of features.
Yeah.
Well, Destination Moonbase Alpha is just one of those. With multiple stories taken and put together. They also had, I think, Alien Attack and Cosmic Princess, something like that, as the other couple that were done. So yeah, there were multiple ones of those recuts, and that's all it is. So it is a real thing, but it's just multiple eps stuck together.
Nice. And finally, for now, Alex Pass, who we know well, got in touch to say, "Hello again, Gerry Anderson podcast peoples. Really enjoyed the extract from the Space Precinct Unmasked audiobook. I'm especially loving the added audio effects for the diary entries.
Yes.
Hoping the complete work will be available soon. The whole thing takes me back to a meeting with Mr. Richard James many years ago, where in a moment of brilliant observation, I told him he looked very different without the mask. Well, we can't all be capable of such genius composition as my arse is on fire. Nope, fair enough. That's from Big Al, sent without igniting his trousers, hopefully.
I love how that's become your catchphrase now, Richard.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be on a T-shirt by the end of the year.
Perhaps it could also go on the officer or in underpants that we discussed last week.
Yes. Well, plainly, it would go on the back, wouldn't it?
Let's not go there.
Let's park that one. Yeah, good. So do get in touch, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and I shall read out your messages next week.
And he really will do that. He promises it, and he does that every week.
I do.
So,
it's true.
There you go. Do write it.
That's why I'm here.
Richard, I think it's time that we discuss in depth some of the latest happenings in the world of Gerry Anderson, don't you think?
Oh, that would be brilliant.
Okay, in a segment which I've decided to call the Gerry Anderson News.
Oh, I like it.
I think this goes beyond newsy news, don't you?
Well, I think you're right. That's why I didn't do it.
So what do we
It's
say
so
instead?
much bigger. Fabby Fab.
Fabby Fab Fab Fab.
It's got to be.
Okay, well, if you don't know already, and you should do because you've listened this far in the podcast, we've already mentioned it several times because we can't help ourselves. Recently, just a few days ago, the 3rd of September, saw us announce First Action Bureau. Mm-hmm. What is First Action Bureau, I hear you ask? Well, First Action Bureau is a brand new full-cast audio drama, a spy-fi audio drama from the world of Gerry Anderson, taking in all sorts of themes from previous Anderson stuff and also some unmade Anderson elements. Created and written by me and Nicholas Briggs, him of Big Finish and the Daleks and all that.
Oh, yes.
And starring Richard James,
Right.
Wayne Forrester,
Yeah.
Genevieve Gaunt,
You're working your way up from the bottom, are you?
Patterson Joseph, Sacha Dhawan, and Nicola Walker.
There you go.
We recorded this, in fact we wrote it, created it, recorded it, did the post-production and everything, all while on lockdown. We recorded it remotely, didn't we, Richard? And it was it was a fun day was had by all.
Yes, it was.
Sound design by Ian Meadows, who did Space 1999, Breakaway, and music by Joe Kramer, who did the film score for Mission Impossible 5.
Great.
As well as a load of other stuff too.
Wow.
The trailer is out for you to listen to right now. We'll be dropping new stuff every Thursday, so you can hear that for the next few weeks. A couple more teasers, a bit behind the scenes, and it'll be launching on the 1st of October.
Wow.
On the 1st of October, you'll be able to listen to the first 3 episodes. The episodes are nice and short, bite-sized, 10-minute episodes, and there are 10 in the whole season. And it's like a pilot audio season for what we think could be a rather exciting TV show.
Yes.
And you get first listen, you lot.
That's amazing.
I think, Richard, we should play out the trailer for First Action Bureau right now.
Have I ever killed anyone without permission?
Not that I know of, officially.
From the worlds of Gerry Anderson.
Master Transporter Flight M104 is go for launch.
First Action Bureau.
10.
Connecting to First Action Bureau. You're early.
Couldn't help myself. Good to see you, boss.
9.
I'm trying not to make this weird.
What is wrong with you?
8.
Try to bond with her if you can.
She'll love me.
As do we all, Nero.
Piss off.
7.
Do you have any romantic feelings towards Benjamin Saul, Nero?
Can you just say my name?
God, no.
6.
Nothing is true.
5.
What?
Swing by my quarters anytime.
I'll definitely do that.
4.
Why do I always attract the weird ones?
He's a real bad boy, isn't he?
3.
Look, you can pretend to be as hard-bitten and unfriendly as you like, but I've read your file and I know you're a nice person.
Now that is a state secret, even from me.
2.
We get to stop global and interplanetary crime before it even gets started. Hence the name First Action Bureau.
Nothing is true.
Just forget about this, or I may have to hunt you down and kill you.
Are you serious?
Not sure. Bye.
Bye then.
Bye, Nero.
Bye.
Bye. So yes,
Oh.
that's Agent Nero Jones, just rounding things off there, played by Genevieve Gaunt. Great cast. They were fantastic. We're very excited, and we can't wait for you to enjoy it for free. We thought Gerry Anderson fans worldwide were deserving of something for free, no strings attached. Pardon the pun. And I hope you enjoy that as it unfolds over the next couple of months.
Yeah, the great thing is you're actually here at the beginning of something that's going to be very big, I think, so that's very exciting.
Well, so you say. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, Richard, there is other stuff going on in the Gerry Anderson universe, so let's touch on that right now. Breakaway Day is coming up the 13th of September 1999. Well, that was the date that the moon blew out of Earth's orbit, fictionally, of course. But the 13th of September 2020 is Breakaway Day as usual. We'll be doing a special edition Breakaway t-shirt, which you can order from the 11th of September until the 15th of September. It will not be available outside those dates, so if you're a Space 1999 fan and want to grab that, then make sure you do on or around Breakaway Day, or it'll be gone forever. A bit like the moon, in fact. If you're more of a UFO person and less of a Space 1999 person, then perhaps I could recommend you our Lieutenant Ellis range.
Yeah.
Yes, Gabrielle Drake makes her way onto a range of t-shirts and hoodies from, well, right now. They're rather smart. Obviously designed by Chris Thompson. I mean, what isn't these days? Clever Chris.
Yes.
He's done a really nice job there. So they're available right now.
Yeah.
I suppose we must go back to a bit more Richard James. I mean, as if we haven't had enough today already.
Great.
But yes, there is more Richard James stuff. Space Precinct, would you believe? Space Precinct Demeter City, the unmade pilot story novelised by someone called Richard James. It is now out as a Kindle ebook and paperback edition available from Amazon. It's only available from Amazon for the next month or two, so if you want it, go and grab it there. Lovely cover again by what's that, Chris Thompson? Gosh, can't believe it. And also, if you want to go from the story of Space Precinct to the story of a Space Precinct, then you also might want to pick up the audiobook version of Space Precinct Unmasked by, yes, Richard James. He wrote and read it, would you believe?
Yeah.
It's only available from the Gerry Anderson store, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk, and is available to download straight away.
Yeah.
Finally, some free content for you. Chris Dale's rather marvellous The Titan Files, all sorts of Stingray-related stuff about how naughty Titan tried to do horrible things. If you haven't watched it already, then do pop along to the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel, youtube.com/GerryAndersonTV,
Great.
where also you'll be able to watch Chris Thompson's First Action Bureau trailer, which is rather smart. Yeah, all that, and probably more that we've forgotten. There's loads of stuff going on, but as we've said, 74,000 times already, the most important, exciting thing, First Action Bureau. Please go and subscribe right now. You'll get a few trailers and teasers over the next few weeks to whet your appetite. And then when the episodes drop on the 1st of October, the first 3, you'll be the first people in the world to get them. So right now, pop over to your podcast provider of choice, search First Action Bureau, do a screenshot, post it on your social media with the hashtag First Action Bureau, all spelt out, and I will pick a couple of winners to get a First Action Bureau related prize pack very soon. So go and do that, and this particular round of screenshotting competition closes on midnight on Breakaway Day. That's the 13th of September.
Nice.
Oof, right, that'll probably do, won't it? Good, excellent.
Yeah.
That then, I think, is the end of this week's exciting Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news. First Action News.
I'm so glad you did that. I thought, is he going to brand it? He's only gone and blooming branded it.
He's knocked it out of the park. That's very good. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Welcome, everybody. Please, you must subscribe to us on whichever channel you're listening to us on, and also subscribe to the new First Action Bureau spy-fi drama coming to you from Anderson Entertainment. Wow, that sounds so good. Just to say that, that's exciting. Now, I'm going to head on over to Facebook, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons. Is where you will find our lovely Podsterons having a lot of fun, for example, posting gift games and flash fiction, and also hosting watch-alongs and quizzes as well. Kevin Palm says that, I see that Richard's novel Space Precinct Demeter City is going to be available for US Kindle readers on September the 4th, but I can't find any mention of the ebook edition of Space Precinct Unmasked. Does anyone know if it will eventually be released as an ebook?
Well, Richard James, we know that it will, won't it?
Yeah, it's true. That's right. Yeah.
So go on. You can break the news.
Space Precinct Unmasked must be 5 years old now. I released it as a self-published thing, in 2015, I think, to mark the 20th anniversary of the series. Well, it's been repackaged, reformatted, and, dare I say, repriced. And I think isn't it? And the intention is for, yes, indeed, it to be released as an ebook and perhaps a paperback too.
Absolutely, yes. Again. So it'll be audio, paperback, ebook, amazing.
Great.
Basically, there's no way for people to avoid you talking about Space Precinct.
No, that's true. That's right. Now, Jeff Tilley posted a picture on the Facebook group saying, on the podcast, the guys asked if anyone owned any props. Well, apart from scripts, I'm lucky to own this costume from Space 1999. And he posted a picture. I bought it back in 1980 from a UK dealer. The photo is from a 1970s themed sci-fi convention held a few years back where I broke it out of storage for a rare public appearance. Now, Jeff, that looks to me, is that Barbara Baines' costume? It looks like it to me. Let me know. We need more details on that.
Yes, please send further information immediately.
Yes, that's right. So, Jamie, after your singing cockerel, which made its debut a few podcasts back, Heather Ballard, who's the Facebook group's resident artist, or one of them, said, I'm going to have to draw some stingray chickens now.
I'm so glad. To Can't wait.
That's right. Yeah, so do head on over to our Facebook group, answer a few questions, and they'll let you in, and you can join in the fun. A very friendly group. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Yes, almost undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Richard?
Yes?
I enjoyed a chat very recently with rather a nice fellow.
Oh, right.
And not you. I mean, obviously I enjoy chatting to you, but this is a new one.
Oh, I see.
New to the podcast. Anyway, it's Mark Woollard.
Yes.
So Mark Woollard is, he's a director of a lot of animated stuff, including many episodes of New Captain Scarlet, but he's also done all sorts of special effects and miniature work and stop motion, and worked with Dad for 30 years and worked with him from Dick Spanner right up until near the very end, working on a screenplay called A Christmas Miracle, which Mark, I'm sure, will talk about probably in part 2.
Right.
But without further ado, let's hand over to Mark Woollard for part 1 of my chat with him about all things Anderson.
Hello, my name's Mark Woollard, and I was an associate of Gerry Anderson's for 25 years.
Only 25? I thought it was 30. Okay. Well, which means you have probably, therefore, Mark, known me since I was almost a little boy.
When I say almost a little boy, you were indeed a very little boy. So, yes, it's been a long time.
Yeah. But our paths have crossed multiple times since then, and still do from time to time when we're actually allowed to see each other in person.
Indeed, I prefer the idea of not seeing him in person, but I mean, nonetheless, with technology being what it is, we have to see it. No, it's great to see you.
Too late now. The damage is done. Right, so we've established that you've got a 25-year history with Dad, and obviously I know some of those points, but I reckon I don't know all of them. In fact, I don't even know your first sort of crossover working point with Dad. So how did your paths first cross, and how did you first start working with him?
Well, the first time was a nearly cross, which was when I was working for a company called Westbury Design and Optical. With a guy called Cliff Cully, used to order matte paintings and miniature effects for Bond films. Which is where I first met Terry Adlam, when I was offered the job to work on 5 Star 5. And on the cusp of taking it, the whole thing collapsed. So that was obviously one of the reasons for getting into the industry, was to try and work with Gerry, because he has been one of the shining stars of everything to do with model work and so on. And so when the opportunity came, I jumped at it. But it was such a crushing disappointment when it didn't go that I didn't think, as things go, I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to work with him. But as luck would have it, as I say, I met with Terry Adlam, and we became friends, started sharing lifts into work and so on. The byproduct of that was that I met his sister and married her later on. But we kept in touch after Westbury Design finished, and he'd got a job working on Terrahawks, initially trying to get in with the art department, but he ended up working with that chap, Steve Begg, on a miniature effects floor. So knowing that he was doing that, I chanced my arm, didn't tell him, but I just wrote a letter to Bob Bell saying if you needed any extra hands on deck, I was prepared to have a go, and it gives a chance, sort of thing. So he gave me the opportunity to come in and interview, which I did. I met Steve and some of the other effects assistants there, and that was on the 3rd season of Terrahawks. So that was the one that I worked on. Unfortunately for me, having had the interview and been given the job, with the unions being what they were at the time, Bob had to phone me up and tell me that, in fact, he couldn't give me the job because the union had found out that I was a non-union person, and they had to go through the procedure of getting a union invitation out to everybody, and then blah, 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 blah. Long story short, he did all that, and I think he doctored the outcome somewhat so that he could give me the job anyway. And so I ended up working with Terry and Steve on the model effects floor on Terrahawks. I didn't really meet your dad there much, but we saw him, tangentially as he was going through. He was still up in the offices, and we were very aware of the fact that we had a look-through system on the camera that meant that he could see everything we were shooting, and also meant that if we were in front of the camera at any time during the course of the working day, he could see that if he wanted to as well. He'd flip a switch. And to that end, he was one of the people that he actually designed that system and brought it to fruition, because the look-throughs didn't happen on cameras before that. It was a very sophisticated system at the time. It came about because Gerry wanted it. I think he got an award for it as well. I think the British cinematographers gave him an award for that. So.
Yeah. He was welcomed in as a fellow for that and other things, bits and pieces. But he's quite proud of that system.
When I say I think he got an award for it, I know he got an award for it, because he marched me out of his office one day and took me down to the entrance department to show the studios and showed me the award in a cabinet next to all of the Oscars and so on. He said, this bloke? So he was proud of it as well. It was a long time coming, but he got it. But yeah, so in the 3rd series of Terrahawks, I was aware that he was around and about, and he was obviously having meetings with Steve Begg and all the directors in the art department and so on. But I never got to see him that much. It wasn't until after Terrahawks, when I've got to get my sequence of events right here, we did Dick Spanner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Space Precinct.
Space Police, yeah, the pilot.
Yeah, did the pilot of Space Police. And I can't remember if that was before or after Dick Spanner, was it?
Space Police would have been 86, Spanner 87. Does that make sense, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Anyway,
yeah.
Whatever was first. Gerry was around more. We were doing, I think it was the other way around. A reason why I think it was the other way around, because I think I saw him more, because when we were doing Dick Spanner, we were doing it for thumpence, as Gerry would say, in the model workshop. We didn't have a stage. We were building it upstairs, building the little plasticine characters and the sets, and Steve was shooting downstairs on a little table with absolutely, the minimum amount of money to do it with, try and get his pilot done. But Gerry was around more than he was, looking at rushes and stuff. And I think we just kind of I got to see him more.
Yeah.
And then when Space Police came along, Space Police, again, he was around about a bit more, and we were doing stuff. So Steve asked me to design the space station in that, so I had conversations with him about that, and I gradually got to see him more. And I think what happened was that we would expand with the crew, and then we'd shrink down when we'd finished the production. And in those shrink down periods, we were still around somehow, and I got to see him more because there's less people to get through to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, around about 86 at the time, it was a heady time of doing stuff like Dick Spanner and Space Police and, getting to see more of him. And, of course, I was working with the illustrious Steve Begg, who started off in Terrahawks times, but that was like he was almost fully formed there. It's crazy meeting him because he's like I was an amateur filmmaker in a very small way, and Steve was an amateur filmmaker in a big way. He was doing vast, ambitious projects in Scotland, and when he was doing the stuff that on the special effects stage, it was incredible how much he already knew and how sophisticated his approach was, and how far-reaching, how ambitious he was with what he was trying to do. Of course, that rubbed off on all of us. So we had a great time experimenting with him holding the cam for everything that he had to do. But we were all doing stuff and learning stuff more about what we could and couldn't do, learning about the bangs and the miniature photography and so on. So that was a really heady time for me and Terry, I know, as well as for Steve. I think he really enjoyed that time as well.
Yeah. No, well, Terry spoke very fondly of the sort of level of, messing around and experimenting and, serious work that you were all doing. Yeah. So we'll just wind you back to 5 Star 5 because not everybody listening will know about it. It was a sort of, let me say, what did you know about it? To what level were you aware about it when you had this potential job on it? Because it was obviously an aborted film project. So what had you heard and what was around information-wise?
I didn't know much about it, except to say it was about 4 characters and a monkey, I believe, a sophisticated monkey. It's something like that. It's very much a space opera approach. I can't remember what the story was. I don't think I ever was told the story except afterwards. I can't remember it now. But it had, I think Sidney Rose was attached as a producer.
Yeah, that's it.
That's when things went a bit pants when I think he left and the money fell through. But I remember just seeing the artwork of the poster artwork or the proposed poster artwork and thinking this is interesting. So very much in the vein of Gerry Anderson production. And at the time it was, I think must have been post Star Wars. But it was before a lot of the other big sci-fi had kicked in. Of course, Gerry still had a reputation for doing all things sci-fi. So it looked like a slam dunk if he'd have got it going in some ways because there was a market out there for it at the time. But alas, it was not to be.
It wasn't to be. Well, we still got the script, so you never know. Maybe one day, something somewhere. Yeah, we'll have to do something with that in due course. So actually then, Mark, so you went in from being a fanboy amateur filmmaker. I don't mean that in an insulting way, but that's just a good summary, right? And you were like, right, I'm going to work on this feature film with Gerry Anderson. And then you ended up working on a lower funded kids series called Terrahawks, and then you went down onto We've Got No Money at All, working on Dick Spanner.
Yeah, it's still my life.
That's quite a descent, isn't it, from your aspirations?
Yeah, add another 20 years to that, and that's where I am now.
He's still doing Dick Spanner. Well, no, I mean, I know you went on to do stuff, but I'm guessing that slightly unkind thread is only something that you would look at in hindsight. At the time, I'm assuming that it was exciting to be doing what you were doing.
Absolutely. It was great fun to do it. I must admit, I've seen Terrahawks before I worked on the show because they're being aired. And so I was aware of what it was. And it was a departure from what I was expecting. I think what everybody was expecting at the time. Just because, first of all, it wasn't marionettes. It was an attempt to do something better, which his dad was always attempting to change what had been done before. And whether you think it's successful or not, I think it was appropriate for what the show became. Probably not what it started as, but what it became was a real family fun entertainment thing. Of course, it had Tony Barwick writing absolutely all of the scripts, I think. And if you'd ever met Tony, he'd realise that his sensibility was extremely dry wit. Everything was comedy. Whenever you had a conversation with him, he was always chuckling underneath what he was saying. He was just such a funny man. Very nice guy. But his sensibility of comedy came out in Terrahawks. And I think, your dad encouraged that side of things as well. I think your dad had a very dry wit. And he'd see the funny side of things. And he wouldn't laugh with everybody, but he'd kind of inwardly giggle. But when he's a very funny guy, your dad as well. He had that sensibility as well that I think steered the Terrahawks into what it became, which I think it's like a comedy delivery system with sci-fi. It's quite rare, actually.
Yeah, it definitely played to its strengths the further it went on, the kind of more the pantomime villainy and the comic and the ridiculous side of it.
Well, of course, I joined on the first of the third series, and that's when they Tony wrote in this character called It Star, which was like there's a birth sequence, and this bifurcate kid comes out with both female and male traits, and I thought, where the hell's this going? I think the one we didn't know was Jeremy played the part.
Jeremy played the German mad scientist boy one, and Denise did the sweet and saccharine girl.
So there's kind of a big schism down the middle there, and he thought, well, how's this going to play? But it was actually so funny because even at the time I remember it being humorous and funny because it was just an outrageous idea. But, got away with it, and it was quite... nowadays you wouldn't get away with that kind of testing kind of birth that happened in the episode that started.
Well, it was cut at the time for transmission with Zelda and the crowbar. It's only now that it's out with the full version. Speaking of things that wouldn't be allowed now or were at the time, tell me about the lunchtime drinking culture at Bray Studios.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no record of that. Well, that's one of the again, when we were working on Terrahawks, your dad had virtually the whole run of Bray Studios, and it's a small little studios in Berkshire, and it's or Bucks, but it's where they used to shoot the Hammer films, and it had about 4 or 5 stages. But we basically owned that. We occasionally had big rock bands coming in and doing rehearsals for their stadium gigs, which is always nice and pleasant to hear when we were trying to record stuff. But effectively, the rest of the studio was our own, and it had dining rooms and a bar. And of course, when we went to the bar, we bloody filled it with all of the characters that were working on the film. So there was a bit of a frown on the fact that I think the special model effects department were in there a lot of the time. Again, we were just aping what Steve used to do because it was just a relaxed way of breaking for lunch, going there, and then maybe going in for a drink after work. But it'd be frowned upon now. But it was all done with moderation. Everything never got out of hand.
Yeah, totally sensible, professional.
Yeah, but when we were doing Dick Spanner, of course, when we were doing the voices, and we used to add the kind of the auxiliary voices, the background voices and things. I remember that me, Steve, and Terry used to go into the recording studio, which your dad also had on the plot as well, and to get us into the mood, he'd buy us, all a 6-pack of lager so that we'd have a few beers as we were going along, so that we could guarantee to be a little bit more outrageous at the end of the recording session than we were at the beginning. But we didn't get paid for it, mind, except in lager. So your dad encouraged it, right?
Well, it was a cost-cutting exercise, Mark, I reckon. In looking from now, I mean, it's easy to kind of joke about it and take the mickey out of the kind of the culture there, but it sounds like, and Steve Beggar's told me this multiple times, that it was a really kind of free, creative, fun environment. Can you attest to that?
Absolutely. No, I mean, the fun we had after work was because we wanted to hang around after work because we were having fun. It was emergent from what we were doing. And we would go in the bar, and half the time, Steve would be doodling on the bar about something that he was designing, or in the spilt beer. And we'd be talking about stuff we'd done, stuff we'd seen. It would be a place where we'd all kind of just wither on about what we liked and what we liked to see. So it was I wouldn't say it was always productive, but it was always good, and it gave us a sense of camaraderie as well, that we would have carry on to the stage. And it was not just us, it was we had Harry Oakes would come in occasionally, and on a Friday, and there'd be it was about times when he was working on Hammer films and early stuff he'd done with your dad. And so it was also just a way of transferring information and having effectively a little bit of an education from people that you would never have expected to have worked with. It was great fun. As I say, it was fun, emergent out of the work we were doing. It wasn't forced in any way. It was just us hanging out.
Yeah, I'm sure that added to the sort of creative melting pot feeling. It must have been like an additive element to working there. It wasn't because you do your work and then you go off and have ideas and create stuff because you wanted to, not because you had to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, your dad really liked the idea of people being friends. He liked, what happened in 20th century, 21st century, century 21, got it right, third time got it right, was that we all were imbued with the fact that was a a fun place to work, and it was like the British School of Special Effects. And there's the only place that you really go there and get an education. And there was something about what was happening as well, which if it had gone on longer, I'm sure it would have been similar. But there was, often said, we've got some great friendships going on here, and it's to do with the work, but not totally to do with the work. The friends that I made there, I'm still friends with today. Steve and Terry and other guys at work, they were still bumping into each other. You had Gary Tompkins, who's working on the same, on Harry Potter films now. He was the art director on all of that stuff. So we still see each other. We're still, working the same spheres.
Yeah,
so it's been 20 years long.
Yeah, it is amazing actually. Just popping to Pinewood or whatever, and I'll see like 5 people who worked on Terrahawks, not all in the same place necessarily, but just paths crossing because they're sort of, it was a major part of the sort of cutting of teeth for film crews at the time was working on Anderson stuff, as it was in the 60s and 70s, I guess.
And one person I forgot to mention who was always there when we were there, and a very good friend, was Mark Harris, because he was somebody who's started with us, and he was, again, I always marvelled at both Mark and Steve, because I lived around the corner. I actually went for a job with Brian Johnson at Bray Studios when he was shooting Space 1999, Sweeping Up or something. That was that close to it, where Steve and Mark came down from Liverpool when I think he was about 14 or 15 to work with Gerry, and Steve was up in Edinburgh and was offered the option to come down. He, just came straight down and took the reins almost instantly of doing Terrahawks. The big gambles those guys made to get down and to work with Gerry. So I was lucky geographically, and Terry as well. We were just around the corner. But there's a lot of commitment from the people that were working on there before they'd even worked on there. Like Steve and Mark, who just made such big sacrifices to get in there.
Yeah. Well, I heard the same from Richard Gregory, who went in and set up workshop and stuff way before they even had the money, just to help kind of sell the whole thing and make it look like it was going. So yeah, there's a lot of loyalty before they'd even really started working with Dad. So,
well, I mean, because your dad had that awe about everything he'd done, it engendered this kind of, we want to work with it. I mean, Richard was always in the bar as well, but he wasn't a very big drinker. He was always falling over. It was lovely.
It was indeed. So just paint me a picture then, before we leave Bray Studios and go ahead in kind of in time and career. What would a typical day be like once you settled into things on Terrahawk Series 3, sort of middle of the run production wise? What would you be doing on a day-to-day basis? What time do you get in? What were your normal things, and what were the strange things you'd be asked to do?
Well, it would be a normal 8:30 to 5:30 working day, and depending on what we were shooting, if we were shooting landscapes, then there'd be maybe 6 setups in a day where we'd have to rejig the landscape, which was all made on rostrums, and we'd be sandbag backgrounds, and there'd usually be a road in there, and they'd be setting it up to camera. Steve would be asking us to set the camera for an angle and turn the set to a certain direction for a certain up and park with a vehicle. And I mean, Steve had already done the storyboards, and he was always great through when he came down at the beginning of a new episode, and he'd done all his boards because he's got a very cinematic eye. So when you see the storyboard, you start getting revved up about what you were going to shoot before you got around to shooting it. So, but then we'd get directed to basically build the sets, wire up the models that were going to be flown, if there were any, like the Tree Hawk and whatnot, and then, or if there's any cars involved, wire them up. You'd pull them through on chains on a split road that we used to use with a rubber membrane on top. So we'd be dressing the sets basically and prepping to shoot, and then we'd be operating the gear on stage if there's any wind required or smoke and flashing lights on vehicles and all that sort of stuff. And so that would be for kind of like doing the landscapes and so on. And at the end of shooting all the landscapes, we would probably move over to then shooting all the space sequences, which would be basically get everything out of the stage, put it aside, rig the rostrums, and then pull the black velvets around to shoot the models, which were going up and past on a rig that rotated them, and flash lights on those, that sort of thing. And then we spend a few days shooting those and the star backgrounds. So it was a lot of just moving things around, manually getting things in position, take after take for whatever is required, and we'd see the rushes the next day and either reshoot or kind of Steve would nod them through, and they'd get put into the assembly edit. So it was it was kind of a up and down. It was good because we'd be doing landscapes one few days, and then we do space the next, and so you never got too bored of doing anything. And of course, again, we were working around people like Harry Oakes, who would come in and light in between a set, after we set up, and you get to see very intimately how he would do things. And he was a master of lighting models and miniatures, of course. And so what you saw there, you wouldn't see anywhere else really, outside of working with Derek Meddings. So it was a fantastic place to lens all of those techniques that had been built up by the guys in the Century 21, and then kind of enhanced by what Steve was doing. We did one of the things that Steve did that wasn't done in Century 21 was an enormous amount of backwinds. He was the backwind king. We would do multiple exposures on the same piece of film for, the up and pass on spacecraft, and then burn in the stars afterwards. It's a technique that was kind of developed by Nicky Alden and Brian Johnson on Space 1999, which Steve then would expand. He'd put drifts on the stars and he'd stick nebulas in, and eventually it ended up with the technique, foreground background technique, where he'd make a cockpit in Space Police. There's a sequence where flying over Demeter City, there's a shot through, a very Blade Runner-esque shot through the cockpit with all the screens alive inside the interior of the cockpit, and a pair of hands, which are Terry Adams' hands, steering this thing. And for the world, it looks like we had, £1 million worth of process photography and motion control, but it was basically just something that was stuck to the front of the camera as a holdout mat, which Steve then shot the background with. So he flew over the background set, and then rewound the camera, and then turned the lights off on the background set, and then we had a television which ran different sequences of footage on, and then he just burned it in different positions on the cockpit about 8 times, and it looked like an amazing shot with live action in there. And so he was pushing the edges. I think 9 backwinds was the most we'd ever done. I think probably must be some world record. But we also did stuff, I think Terry mentioned it, where we had like little areas on the model set where there was a darkened area that was left to be a little bit of stage that Steve then would marry up with a previously shot piece of footage of me and Terry having a scuffle in an alley to make it look like there's a couple of muggings going on, just to add a little bit of extra depth to it and a little bit of extra, production value. So all those things, he was always pushing the edges of it. It was always, you watched it and you thought, this looks like a multi-million-pound film. That shot after it might not have, but that shot did. But it was great fun to just be around and seeing that all done for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, amazing tricks that Steve was coming up with and going to, huge efforts despite lower budgets.
It's a shame he didn't go on to do anything else, Steve. He just kind of faded away and never did.
Yeah, never heard of him since. I don't even know what he's up to these days, really. So,
love it.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, that's great. What I love about these, it's fantastic, of course, to have the celebrity fans on to talk about how they were inspired by Jerry. But I think for me, it's the interviews with people who worked with Jerry on various series that give us the real insight into how the series were made, and a little bit more insight into what it was like to work with your dad as well.
Exactly, but it's different perspectives, isn't it? So the last few pods interviews, we've got celebrity fans in Brian Cox and Robin Ince.
Yeah.
We've got a fan who works in the industry currently but didn't work with Dad directly, Matthew Clark.
Yeah.
And now Mark Woollard, who worked with Dad for 30 years. Great to get all those different perspectives and just see where appreciation and themes kind of cross over. It's really, really nice. Anyway, look, Mark will be back next week with loads more stuff about working with Dad over the years through Terrahawks and the Space Police pilot and Space Precinct, not Lavender Castle, funnily enough.
Right.
But then all the way on to New Captain Scarlet. Lots to talk about, and I'm sure Mark will give us all sorts of in-depth stuff. So thank you, Mark. More next week.
Yeah, look forward to that. Don't forget, of course, you can look back on all our previous podcasts and listen to other guests, including the likes of Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong, and Nicholas Briggs and Phil Plate and Gary Newman and David Graham and Shane Rimmer, Sophie Aldred and Sophia Miles.
Mike Tucker.
So many of them. Just have a look back, pick a favourite, and fill your ears with joy. Now, if you're on
Twitter... get medical advice first.
You can tag us, Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll see your tweets. You can also tag me, Richard N. James, him, I'm Jamie Anderson, and him over there, look, just putting some new logs on the fire there, Chris Dalek. For example, Captain Kangaroo, that's Eric, who joined us for our special Anderson Insiders Space 1999 watch-along the other night.
He did.
He informed us that he saw an exhibition of costumes from designer Pierre Cardin at some point in the fairly recent past, I think, and took some pictures of some costumes that were very obviously inspired by Captain Scarlet. And he's tweeted them as well, saying, "This was part of the Pierre Cardin costumes fashion line I was talking about. You can definitely see how the Spectrum outfit came from it. It was from 1964, and I think Scarlet was 1967. So there we are. So in fact, the other way round. The series perhaps inspired by the Pierre Cardin designs. But very interesting pictures.
Well, we also know that Gary Newman, you mentioned him earlier on,
yes.
One of his costumes for a music video was based on Scarlet's tunic, and he was a big fan. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yes, inspiration and influence everywhere.
Now, Hotels.com posted a tweet.
What? Are we sponsored by Hotels.com now?
But there's something I'm not telling you. So anyway, I'm going to pack my bag straight after this and I'm off to Mallorca for the weekend. Anyway, but they posted saying, name a more iconic duo than Eric Cantona and you. To which Robert replied, well, James T. Kirk and the Enterprise, Han Solo and Chewbacca, Santa and Mrs. Claus, Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Wow.
So that's official. We're now an iconic duo, Jamie.
Gosh. I don't know what to say to that other than thank you very much. I'm honoured.
And another Robert tweeted us, this is regarding the Space Precinct Demeter City pilot, which was never made, of course, but has since, as we know, been released as an ebook, audiobook and a paperback. He says, with a bit of technical know-how and such, it might be possible to actually make it using the same principles used in Rogue One. So I think he's referring there to the way they resurrected Peter Cushing for his part of Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. Yeah, possible, I suppose, but wow, that'd cost a bit, wouldn't it?
It's all very, very expensive, yeah. Again, we've discussed this before, haven't we? Just the massive, colossal expense and logistical difficulty of all these things. And unfortunately, nobody can just click their fingers and go, yeah, let's make that. We've got drop 10 million in it, no problem.
Yes.
Yeah, got that in the
That's right.
in my back pocket.
Yeah, maybe one day, who knows? But of course, there's all the permissions as well. If you were to remake, or rather make for the first time, the Space Precinct pilot, would you have to seek permission from the likes of, Rob Youngblood and Ted Shackelford to use their likenesses? Of course he would.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure their contracts did not cover, virtual reproduction of your likeness in the event of your death or retirement.
Wow. So
no, that's a minefield.
Yeah. So yeah, very good. Do tag us on Twitter, hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and I'll read out your tweets next time.
Great. Something we get tweeted about quite a lot, Richard James, is a segment.
Sorry about that. I see.
A segment called the Randomiser.
Oh yes, that. I thought you meant the court case.
No, not that. Do not mention that.
Sorry.
It's owned and operated by one Christopher Dale.
Yes.
And he is the guardian of the Randomiser, the presser of the button, the reader of the printout, and the examiner of 60 years worth of Gerry Anderson shows.
He is.
Should we let him do all those things in one go right now here on the Gerry Anderson Podcast in the segment known as the Randomiser?
Yes.
Here we go.
Oh, hello everyone. Well, no time for a full introduction today as it's another very long episode. In fact, I don't even have a guest to help me today. Excuse me, who are you? Well, I'm you, aren't I? I thought I was me. Are you sure you're not just someone pretending to be me? Well, what would be the point of that? Good point. Well, if I'm not me, then who are you? Well, which one of us wants to be me? Well, I certainly don't. Well, neither do I. Well, while we try and sort this mess out, we should probably get on with today's episode. Yeah, sounds good. Shall we say the title together? Oh, rather, yes, on 3. 1, 2, 3, it's Thunderbirds with the Imposters. Oh, I thought you did that very well. Well, thank you, it comes from years of practice, and you weren't so bad yourself. Oh. Have you ever thought of doing this professionally? Oh, darling, no, I couldn't possibly. Oh, go on. Oh, you flatter me. Who were they, Marina? So, welcome back to that most rarest of Randomiser series. It's Thunderbirds. I think this is probably only about the 5th or 6th time we've actually seen Thunderbirds in 115-ish weeks. Anyway, this is a rather spectacular opening. This news helijet looking for a place to land. I do like this this aerial shot from above as well.
There it is, folks. There it is. For the first time in television history, we've been able to rush our cameras to the scene of an accident and see the fabulous Thunderbird International Rescue Team in action.
Yeah, this is reporter Eddie Kerr.
We're going down. Friends, you heard what the pilot said. Stay by your...
We're going down.
First dramatic pictures will be flashed to you in...
This pilot is the Fireflash, Captain Hansen's co-pilot from the Fireflash, oddly enough. Landing near, well, he claims it's an international rescue machine, but I don't recognise it. Well, I recognise it as being the vehicle used by the Fireflash sabotage people in Operation Crash Dive.
I've been told since landing that this rescue is fairly routine, so there'll be none of that wonderful equipment in use. But does that matter? After all, it isn't the equipment that interests us, no sir. It's the great guys who use it.
We're not interested in the equipment as much as the men with their equipment. It's, Oh, so Eddie Kerr's surrounded by very familiar extras. There's Blanche Carter from City of Fire.
Collapsed. Before it was even known a man had been trapped, international rescue were on the scene and...
Oh, aren't they good?
What's that, Joe? I just heard. They're on their way up.
It's a shame this isn't Ned Cook. Matt Zimmerman seems to play a lot of reporter characters, and it could have been Ned Cook through the whole series. I know Eddie Kerr, the puppet, returns with this voice in another episode as well.
Get back. Give him some air.
But I'm not sure if it's meant to be the same guy or not.
Phenomenal international rescue team has done it again. Another human life has been saved. Excuse me, sir, but have you got a word for our viewers?
Sorry. You know the rules. No TV. No photograph.
Yes, but as a member of international...
I said no photograph!
Ah. Well, Colonel Tim Casey was on hand with a camera to snap that shot of not a member of International Rescue.
I don't get it, Father. I just don't get it.
Kind of strange, I agree, Scott. But if those fellas have dedicated themselves as we have, who are we to complain?
But they're using our name.
No such thing as copyright infringement in the future.
I know, Tintin. Sure, it's unethical, but is it so important? You read the report, they saved a life. That's what counts.
I like this.
Your father is worried, Scott, and upset, despite what he said.
And it falls to Tintin to voice something that Jeff would never...
It just doesn't figure.
Never publicly say.
I knew what really happened.
Well, let's go down the hole and have a look. And clearly, obviously, as the episode title might clue you in, these are not genuine international rescue members, nor do they have good intentions at heart. This is a story from Dennis Spooner, and I rather like when a series sort of explores the story possibilities that its own premise throws up. This isn't some, top secret or highly technological revolutionary thing that's going to go wrong. This is international rescue having to deal with almost a threat against themselves, really. And we're still going all the way down the well. And we have found... Oh. Well, there's a hole leading into a bank strong room. Or other top secret type strong room, and... all the cell doors have been ripped open and the bars have been cut, and the filing cabinets are in an absolutely shocking state, especially the one marked top secret. They even knocked over the waste paper basket.
Now you know how they did it.
The fiends.
No doubt that their plan succeeded.
None.
Well, you heard a character say that line, but actually two puppets' mouths were moving there.
This meeting's task is to decide on the course of action we must take. The course of action...
This is the meeting of the grey-haired military types with moustaches.
Right. General, I still can't believe that International Rescue would pull a stunt like this.
Oh, come off it, Jack. We've been taken by that outfit, and we've been taken good. Now, here's a map showing the rescues that, to our knowledge, they've pulled off. All carefully spaced out, gentlemen.
It's a shame we don't get to see the entirety of this map showing International Rescue's supposed rescues, because it would be nice to have a couple of references back to previous operations.
To perfect this plan of appearing and striking without raising any suspicion, they've had to spend millions on their machines. Now, does this make sense?
Sure it does. L4 project.
I do like this guy, General Lambert. He's so...
Accelerated light cost this country 25...
So intent on catching these international rescue rats that, common sense, rational thinking. It all sort of bypasses him.
Which the world's never seen. They'll cover every inch on the face of the globe if they have to. We'll find those rats, you take my word for it.
Rats?
We'll find them.
Yeah, right, we'll find them. You're right.
And then we get a lovely... Again, much like the trip down the hole, it feels like just padding, but this is much nicer padding, of all the world's military forces rolling out and setting sail and blasting off to investigate international rescue. Where could they be?
This is the central office of the General Staff Command. To all search controllers. You are to proceed to your stipulated areas. International rescue must be found. Search and double...
I like as well the control room set that this search is being conducted from, because there's so many familiar puppets around the place. It's a nice big set, and I believe that guy cruising around on the chair in the background, I believe that's actually a Stingray injector tube chair. I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure.
Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah, we're watching our area so well that if a kid sends up a kite without permission, we'll track it.
Don't mention our areas again in public, Steve.
They call themselves now, are operating from the South Pacific. They need only make a move, and we've got them.
And if they don't make a move, our search force will smell them out.
Ooh, they found Tracy Island. That was quick. And they overfly the actual
World television reporter Eddie
Tracy Island villa at like 0 feet for some reason.
gang of crooks.
Traitorous crooks.
How do you like that?
Yeah, I'm with you, Verge.
We filmed an interview today with General Lambert, Supreme Commander.
I like this as well. I like how camera shy he is.
Well, folks, this is General Lambert. General,
Not much to look at.
I'd like to say thanks for letting us drop in. We know you're a very busy man right now.
Yes. Well, it's a pleasure.
It's a lovely little bit of characterization. Again, something this show did so well.
That's enough, Gordon. We know what's going on without having to listen to that.
What are their chances of finding us, Mr. Tracy?
They won't find us, Tintin. We're too well hidden for that. They'll search the island, of course, but people have been here before. That's no problem.
Well, what are we going to do, Dad?
As long as you don't leave the International Rescue portraits up like you did in Trapped in the Sky, I believe.
Meanwhile, we daren't operate as International Rescue until this whole business is cleared up.
But what if we receive an emergency call, Father?
We just have to sit tight.
You mean just ignore it?
That's right.
But people could be dying.
Yeah, that's the painful thing hanging over this shutdown of International Rescue.
We are powerless to help anybody in this present situation. If we attempt any sort of activity using our International Rescue crafts or operate in any way, we are going to be clapped into jail.
Well, what's the action?
Well, this is where our agents come in. As you know, International Rescue have got agents all over the world.
Yeah, and it's normally just Penelope, but in this episode we're going to meet another one, because we see here on the International Rescue Agents chart...
The territory is covered by each individual.
Well, there looks to be several dozen.
Information, however unimportant it is, to be radioed in. Lady Penelope will leave for the States in order to question eyewitnesses in case they can throw some light on the situation. We'll find...
Well, there is a light for Lady Penelope in the London area. There's also a light for someone in Scotland. I'd like to meet the International Rescue Scottish agent. Knowing this show's depiction, or knowing the Anderson depiction of Scotland generally, it would be very, very sympathetic and not at all stereotypical. Speaking of stereotypes, Lady Penelope has packed 1 or 2 things for her trip.
The car awaits, madam. I'll just collect the rest of your gear.
Thank you, Parker. Pity I couldn't take all that I wanted to. But this is an emergency mission.
See, because she's a woman, she likes to take a lot of stuff with her. As women are, of course, known to do. Or at least in the Super Mario Nation universe when they go on holiday, anyway. And again, more padding, but it's nice padding. How are we going to... Well, we're going to drive to London Airport, and what plane are we going to catch? Well, why not risk our lives? Have a go on the Fireflash. Because that's never ended badly on this show before. Oh, and there she is. Oh, and I like that shot that I think is exclusive possibly to this episode of a plane touching down right next to Fireflash. Ah, dear. Beautiful.
Very nice, I must say, milady. I always think myself it's the best way to travel. First class. Worth that bit extra. Oh, mind you, the service isn't quite what I would expect, but... these young fellas don't have the training that I had.
Quite, Parker, quite.
I do love Parker's snobbishness about air travel. I also noticed there that sitting at the table behind them was one of the officers of General Lambert's search force. Now, either he is spying on them, or he's, I don't know, maybe he's got an identical twin brother out there somewhere. And we've already seen one this episode. The Fireflash co-pilot, who we're going to see again in a second, was piloting the helijet. There they are, Captain Hansen.
Mach 5.3, height 200,000 feet. Level off.
And again, that's just stock footage from Trapped in the Sky, as again, I think it is in the Duchess assignment. But it's nice to sort of keep those, not only keep the Fireflash in the series, but kind of keep those characters in the series.
Killer Parker.
Even though technically they're not really in the series anymore.
Agent somewhere will find something.
Oh, well, it'll be wee Jock McTavish, International Rescue Scottish agent, who's gonna save the day there. No? Ah, who's this then?
That critter get to.
Ah, it's Agent 47. Agent 47, old Jeremiah Tuttle.
Yes, sir. Reckon that'll do for supper.
He shot a stuffed cat. Oh, dear. And can I just ask, is there anybody in the world who doesn't love the Jeremiah theme? I especially love the cover version that was released on vinyl back in the day. It's just so nice and jolly. And I'm really glad that we have Jeremiah and Ma for one. It is just for one episode, but they do liven the episode up enormously.
All I can say is that little fella must have sure taken some catching.
Reckon I'm a mite late.
Whatever it is, it doesn't seem to have a head. It's just 4 limbs.
Business? What business?
Well, now, Mo, 'tain't for me to see. Kinda between me and that there Mr. Tracy.
And this is another lovely, very Anderson touch of subverting your expectations. You got these, hillbillies out in the woods in this ramshackle old place, but it's full of secret devices and hidden microphones. Or it's very, it reminds me a bit of X-20's place on Lemoyne, in fact.
Call an international rescue base.
Go ahead, Agent 47.
Thank you for your assistance in the search of the island, Mr. Tracy. Sorry we had to trouble you, sir.
Well, that's quite all right, Colonel. I hope you find the ones you're looking for.
We'll find them, sir. Don't worry.
I like as well that, considering the search of the island has been going on, it's just now finished.
Message received. Over and out, and thanks.
Alan was taking messages for any visitors to hear.
Gone, Father?
They have for now, but my guess is they'll be back. Messages still coming in, Alan?
Yeah. This one's from Agent 47. Sounded sort of hillbilly.
47. Oh, 47.
And I like that as well that, for those who don't know, the number 47 is quite prevalent in the modern era, well, I say modern era, 90s era Star Trek shows from The Next Generation onwards. There are 47s all over the place, to the extent that it has become sort of the Star Trek number. And I like that, again,
one day, when he asked
an Anderson show got there first.
Views. What's he got to say, anyway? Aircraft tire tracks.
I cooked up that critter, Mr. Tracy. I can't say as I rightly recommend it. Been on the box since Tuesday.
Not much to go on. File it, son. No action.
And this is where, as well, the caricatured look of the Thunderbirds puppets comes in really well. Ma Tuttle here.
Ma.
Well, I was just
so jowly and warty and
mine.
Yep. So wondering the same thing myself.
And Jeremiah looks like he's missing 1 or 2 teeth. Anyway, down at the old mine, there's a couple of shady characters down the old mine with a pair of international rescue uniforms.
Yeah, and the best deal. We make a fortune. And international rescue take the rap.
Yeah, kind of tough on those guys, though.
Yeah, I'm eating my heart out.
Ah, there we go. And of course, these two puppets often appear together as villains. And they've got their top secret plans, but they also have to put up with living in a cave in the middle of hillbilly country. So I hope they're getting a lot of money for those plans, because I wouldn't want to live there.
Eyes found nothing. Well, we knew it wouldn't be an easy job when we started. We're just gonna divide up this map and start again. For the security of the world, international rescue have got to be found.
So General Lambert's getting precisely nowhere.
Search Control from Space Observatory 3. Come in, please. This is Search Control SO3. Go ahead. Tracking device DKO has developed a fault. We are non-operational as of now. Schedules show you monitoring South Pacific area. Check? Check. South Pacific area.
That's convenient. The one satellite monitoring International Rescue's position has got to go off the air for a bit.
That was the message I picked up, Dad. The space station watching for us in the whole Pacific area has closed down for 4 hours.
Thanks, John. It doesn't make much difference. If we did manage to take off without being discovered, they'd track us on the return trip. Keep listening in. You may hear something to help us.
Okay. How's it going down there anyway?
We're plowing through the agent's reports, hoping for a lead.
I wish you luck.
Oh, at least we're not the only ones with trouble.
Gee, he's a nice guy. Wish I had a son like that.
Tracking device DKO has broken down.
Well, don't just stand there. Get them on the radio. I'll talk to them.
I'll yell the circuit into working.
Go ahead, search control.
General Lambert for you.
Oh, tell him I'm not here.
I want that space station of yours fully operational in the shortest possible time. If not sooner. Is that clear? Yes, sir. We're just about to start, sir. I'm going to send...
That's what they were planning to do anyway.
And get to it, man. Get to it. Call me back when you've fixed it. Right. Let's get started.
It's a bit of a Basil Fawlty moment there. If the General hadn't phoned up to yell at them, Elliot would have started a couple of minutes sooner.
You ready then?
Yeah, I'm ready.
As I was saying, Mr. Kerr, my readers in England are as intrigued by this whole business as you are here.
Well, I guess the whole world is outraged by those rats. International rescue is certainly a dirty word around here.
Quite.
Quite, but that's 2 words.
Thank you for all the information about the...
I recognise that statue Penelope sat in front of. Is that one from the Hood's Temple?
And after the rescue operation, the imposters made off in their aircraft in a south-southwesterly direction.
Probably a blind. Although they wouldn't want to go too far out of their way.
What sort of a jet was that again?
Well, Eddie Kerr wasn't too certain. Probably an EJ-2.
Well, that's not a long-range job. 1,000 miles at the most.
So the imposters couldn't have had far to go to their base.
It's not much to go on, but it suggests we'd be best to concentrate our attention on this area.
Well, which agent covers that area, Father?
47.
Yay! That's the clue about the tire tracks.
We have something from Jeremiah Tuttle.
Yes, Father, we did. He reported seeing some aircraft tracks, remember?
Yes, I do.
And it makes me mad.
Parker to stand by with the rolls. I've got another mission for you.
Right, Jeff.
Oh, they're washing. Oh, everything's so rustic and homely, and it's just the level of detail in these shows, and particularly here, it's just something so out of the norm.
Why, ain't that there the emergency call sign, Jeremiah?
Sure is. That's why I'm rushing, Ma.
Yep, just gonna mosey on in there. Oh dear, he's so sweet.
Go right ahead, Mr. Tracy, sir.
That report of yours, Jeremiah, about the undercart tracks. Looks like there might be something in it. I'm sending our London agent to see you.
Now, that's right doggone decent of you, Mr. Tracy. Don't have many visitors around these parts.
Her name is Lady Penelope. I want you to meet her and give her all the help you can. She's going to investigate those tracks.
It doesn't say much for
Jeremiah?
Jeff's faith in Jeremiah as an international rescue agent that he won't let him investigate those tracks.
Chicken's out of the truck. We're gonna need it.
And it is also a shame that this is the only time we ever see any other international rescue agents. I know both Jeremiah and Penelope are essentially caricatures, but it would be nice to get a more of an idea of the scale of the organisation, because by the end of the series and into the movies, Penelope seems to do absolutely everything. To the extent where it almost doesn't make sense for them to have a network of agents when she's being sent all over the place anyway. And Elliot's, working on the exterior of the space station, but he...
Nothing wrong, is there? No, it's okay. I just lost a spanner, that's all. I'm coming in now.
Spanner floating off into the void. To be discovered by some strange civilization. Many thousands of years into the future. It's the only real explanation I can find for why this spanner is getting so much screen time. Drifting off into space. This as well is quite a pronounced example of padding. this long spacewalk stuff of Elliot. In fact, I've just skipped over the entire first scene of him being out here because it was just nothing but silence. Anyway, he's removed his, or is removing his safety lines. One's off. Now I've just got to do the other one. Have to adjust our thruster pack and gently guide ourselves back to the airlock. Oh, and that's it. He's off too. Which is probably why we got the long scenes of the spanner tumbling into the void, because now this other spanner is heading off after it. Sounds like his thruster pack is locked on full. I noticed as well that in the control pad for his thruster pack, it had a button marked Reserve Air. But again, this is a spacesuit from the Super Marination era that doesn't seem to have any visible air supply. The only thing he's got on the back is the thruster pack. It must be a holdover from the Fireball XL5 days where you could breathe in space no problem. Whereas in Thunderbirds and even into Scala, people get into spacesuits with no visible means of life support at all. Anyway, Jeremiah and Ma are now rushing to meet Lady Penelope. But there's another chap on the road as well. Rather dashing young gentleman in a sporty red car.
At last, a stretch of clear road. No crazy roadhogs getting in the way of my beautiful wagon. All right, baby, here we go. That's my baby! That's my baby!
Approaching fast are, well, not fast, but...
We're going to be late for their appointment with Lady Penelope. I'm sorry.
Lady Penelope.
I'm just going to have to use a supercharger.
That's it. Crank it up to max. And again, it's another wonderful example of something that looks so ordinary and simple suddenly has this...
This is really living it!
It suddenly has this inbuilt supercharger that can outrace the fastest and latest sports car. Oh, that's it.
Don't believe it!
That's his little subplot come to an end.
We're nearing the appointed rendezvous with 47, Belade.
Thank you, Parker. He'll lead us to his home, and we'll make our plans there.
Right, Belade.
Again, that sequence is padding as well, because there's no reason really for Penelope and Parker to not just go straight to the Tuttles' house, but we have to have this scene of them driving out to meet them and then going back home. Anyway.
There's no chance of you getting him back with the retro pack?
None. He moved too fast for me to get a direction.
Hale's reporting that Elliot's gone off by himself.
The only chance he has is if you can get a rocket launched. Listen, Hale. You know as well as I do just how long it would take to get a ship to your sector.
Yes, sir.
I'm busy organizing the second global search operation in 2 days.
International rescue? Oh. Suppose we just try and remember what this operation is all about, huh?
Yes, sir.
How long before you can get that satellite on tracking duty?
An hour, sir.
Then I suggest you get working. Elliot gave his life for the success of this detail. And I'm gonna...
Wow, that's pretty callous. I'm not dead. He's not dead yet.
Thanks, John.
He's probably got a few hours suffocating to death yet before he gets to that point.
We've got to do something, Father.
Alan, what can we do? Unless Penelope comes up with something, we can't make a move.
I know I don't really have to say this, but there's a man's life at stake.
That's right, Scott. A man. One man. And if we're discovered and put out of business, it could be 500 over the next few months.
I like as well, this is a rather mature angle for Thunderbirds to take.
I feel the same as you. Worse. But we can't help him.
It's very rare that International Rescue ever contemplate the thought of not being able to help someone or save someone. And of course, although we never see it, realistically, there must have been people they couldn't save at some point, but of course we never see any of that. Nor would we want to, really. But, oh, here we go. Penelope and Parker are at the Tuttles.
Our plan of action.
Kind of figured that as I know this part of the country, you'd let me handle it, Lady Penelope.
What show have you been watching?
This one, all to myself.
Yep, that's what I heard. She likes having it all to herself. And thus begins one of my favourite Penelope plot lines. Penelope gets shown up for the largely incompetent person that she is, and has to be saved by ordinary folk.
I don't rightly reckon they'll get very far in that there fancy buggy.
No, they sure won't.
And this is Peter Dineley, the voice of Jeff Tracy, playing Jeremiah, and I love his speech pattern as well. You know, they're fancy buggy, and Lady Penelope, and all that stuff.
Bogged down by the mud, I'm afraid, milady.
Well, never mind. We can get up to the mine on foot.
So the mud has bogged down the car. That's point one in point one to nature in Lady Penelope versus Nature. Here comes point two. Oh,
sorry.
Parker's leading the way and slapped her in the face with a...
Be the 100th time you've done that.
Another branch.
I'll lead.
Yes, ma'am.
And I can't remember if I've ever talked about Lady Penelope. I'm not that keen on the character.
No.
I like that she's a strong, independent woman, but I don't find she sits well within the Thunderbirds world of saving people and helping and rescuing others. And Lady Penelope is sort of like this, serial killer working on the side, just sort of blowing away anybody who even does a little bit wrong. Indeed, she has at least one outright murder on her hands. It's just, I find this so satisfying of her traipsing through the mud in her high heels. Come on, where's that moment? Come on, I'm living for the moment. Yes! Face down in the mud. I like this Penelope plotline. You know, I get that she's a landmark character in the Anderson universe.
Ours to live.
The things that she does are not they don't always sit well with me. You know, particularly Vault of Death, when she's racing to London and just forces someone to drive off the road, smack into a tree. That's not really very Thunderbirdsy. So I like that this episode gives her a bit of a comeuppance. And this is another lovely image as well that I may have commented on before. I always find something very poignant, whether in this or UFO Space 1999, just seeing the image of a space-suited human being just sort of tumbling into the void without any hope of rescue. It's just something very, very poignant about that, watching the figure get smaller and smaller. It's a rather haunting image.
All right, boys. Alan, Scott, we're going after him.
Hooray. The search is still on, Dad.
I'm well aware of that. But it's just feasible that Penelope will clear us in time. If not, we'll take everything as it comes.
Yeah, he's not to know that right now Penelope is shambling around in the forest with mud all over her face.
Take Scott with you.
Sure.
We've left it late, but do your best to save him. Okay, away you go.
And again, some more padding with the Thunderbird 3 launch sequence, although, again, relying on stock footage from a previous episode, Sun Probe, of
Eye for blast off.
Alan and Scott's inside Thunderbird 3. But of course, it means that since they went down on the sofa from the Tracy Lounge, both of them have changed their clothes. And I don't just mean into their international rescue suits. I mean they've changed their casual clothes. But I suppose it wasn't really worth reshooting that material just for this scene. Anyway, Thunderbird 3 is off to rescue Elliot.
Sector 4 reports unidentified rocket launch.
Did they get a bearing?
No, sir. It didn't register till it was 2 miles up.
I can't believe it's international rescue, but keep a close watch on it anyway.
Yes, sir.
We would have pinpointed that launch site if the satellite had been with us.
It's also interesting that after this episode, once International Rescue clear their name, spoiler alert, no mention is made of the fact that the military basically know roughly where International Rescue are located.
We're in the area.
They just sort of seem to play it on the honor system of, oh well, we know they're good chaps again now, so we won't bother looking for them anymore.
I know it's hard to believe, sir, but I tell you, International Rescue are going after Elliot. I don't get it, sir. I thought we'd seen the last of them. There's nothing to get, Hale. They've got the equipment, and it looks like one of them's got a conscience, that's all. But this changes nothing. They're still wanted criminals. I want you to track them into their base. We'll be waiting for them. How long do you need? I can start tracking in 10 minutes.
Oh, a shot of Thunderbird 3 just parked in space. That's so beautiful.
Calling observatory. Come in. Hail.
Is it ever actually explained why no one's picking up Elliot's distress calls?
Broke up. I got a rough bearing.
Because it looked like he just had an accident with his thruster pack. It didn't look like the whole thing malfunctioned as such. But, maybe it did. That's it, Thunderbird 3, off to the rescue.
You are right, Alan. Try it on vision.
Well, Alan always has to be right in his ship.
Oh, what are we waiting for? Let's go and get him.
Yeah. Hooray. Right. Meanwhile...
Hey, a few more hours, and the plane should be back with the buyer.
That's it, Corella. And it'll take good American dollars to buy this little lot. They can keep their foreign money.
Foreigners! Oh, dastardly foreigners. Anyway, Penelope has shambled and failed and probably cried her way to the mine.
We've got them cornered, all right.
But now she's gonna sort them out. Or not, because her gun's full of water.
Oh, no. Parker, why did I ever come here? Why?
Yes, karma!
Mud. It's everywhere.
Oh, crack secret agent standing there complaining about the mud.
Why didn't I let those hillbillies do this?
Well, because you said you wanted to do it yourself, milady. I did think it was a bad idea at the time. Oh, they're just standing there in plain view of the two imposters.
Guess I'll shoot first and ask questions after.
But luckily...
Time I took a hand, Ma.
Yeah, Jeremiah and Ma came to save them.
You'd better come on out of there and give yourselves up.
Oh, Jeremiah. We thought someone was firing at us.
Yep. Reckon it might be just that, Lady Penelope.
Got us hemmed in, Jenkins.
Maybe.
Yeah, Jenkins, see?
Come and get us, wise guy!
Oh dear, they're going to make a fight of it, Jeremiah.
Oh
Yep.
Dear.
Looks that way. Pass me those...
Poor you, secret agent, having to fight.
Beans. But this is no time to eat.
Oh yeah, here we go.
I guess you ain't been round these parts long enough to heard about Ma's beans, man.
Oh, I love this. That's it. Throw the beans in and kablamo. And another one for good measure.
Okay, you win.
Hey, let's get out of here.
So that's it. The imposters have been caught, not by Penelope and Parker, but by Jeremiah. And Ma and some beans.
The search is cancelled as of now. I haven't got the full story yet, but I've just...
somebody up there thinks I'm not doing a very good job.
International rescue have been cleared. They're to be given all cooperation.
So Penelope got a very speedy confession out of them, or it's probably Jeremiah with some I don't know, how would they have coerced that confession out of the two imposters?
Yeah, pretty good.
These hillbillies have some very strange ways.
Space Observatory 3 to search control. I'm about to start tracking. Hail! You'll do nothing of the sort, do you hear?
International rescue are cleared. Switch off your equipment.
Yes, sir.
I like that as well. Hale spends all afternoon working alone, fixing the thing. He's lost his friend, but at least he can still do the job. And then, what does he get? He gets yelled at.
Saved my life. Thanks. And, well...
Oh, here we go.
It's just great that you guys have been cleared. You can say that again.
Yeah, Scott's saying that line without opening his mouth. And of course it would be the line, you can say that again. It couldn't be any other line.
It's terrific to see international rescue back in business.
Hey, what a nice note to end the episode on. Thunderbird 3 drops off Elliot back at the space station. Another very long but rather lovely shot of the observatory in Thunderbird 3, slowly nestling up alongside it. Presumably they've fixed Elliot's rocket pack, otherwise he's just going to climb out, press the button and go shooting off into the void again. But for now at least, everything's okay. And that was The Imposters, which I've always had quite a soft spot for, and I gather this is a favourite of a lot of people. I like the idea of international rescue being essentially, crippled for an episode and having to rely on, well, not Penelope to save them, but of course we had good old Jeremiah here to save the day. What a lovely character. Jeremiah and Ma. Just a real nice change of pace. Now there's some unfortunate long sequences of padding here, but to be honest, there's quite a bit of padding in a lot of Thunderbird's episodes, especially those early ones that were bulked up from 25 minutes. This is not too bad. I've seen worse, but it's just a really strong premise for an episode. Some lovely guest characters. I wish we could have seen Jeremiah and Mark come back, actually. To be honest, I don't think we really needed Penelope in this episode at all. Could have just sent Jeremiah off to do everything this week, because he pretty much showed her up. But anyway, love the imposters, love Thunderbirds, and love good old Jeremiah.
Ooh, nice bit of Thunderbirds.
Yep, love it.
That's fab, you might say.
You might say that, Jamie.
FAB, Richards.
Yes.
See, do you think people are going to be annoyed that I've rewritten canon there? Anyway, sorry. It's not.
Listen, the thing is, we now know what FAB stands for.
It does. No, but it doesn't. It doesn't stand for that in Thunderbirds. It does not stand for that in Thunderbirds. I'm not saying that. We're not trying to retcon anything.
Okay.
It's completely separate. It just so happens to share those three letters. Anyway, look, lovely bit of Lady P making a fool of herself there. Chris seemed very happy, and also obviously a much loved appearance from Jeremiah as well. Yeah, Chris is super happy. I'm quite happy. You seem quite happy.
Well, I'm quite happy now we're at the end.
You're so rude. But your sentiment is probably shared by many Podsterons. If you've listened this far, thank you very much for doing so. We're very excited about First Action Bureau. Some free full cast audio drama coming your way very soon in 10-minute snackable episodes.
Oh, nice.
What a terrible word.
No, that's great.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
So do pop over to the First Action Bureau podcast page on your podcast app of choice. Just search First Action Bureau. Make sure you're subscribed and screenshot to show you subscribed. Post it on social media with hashtag First Action Bureau. And on the 13th of September 2020, I will pick a couple of winners to get some goodies as a thank you for sharing the word.
Amazing.
That's it.
Yes, well done. Great.
Are we done? Should we go?
Yeah, let's go.
Right, we're off. See you in pod 118. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
I like how you slipped into your First Action Bureau voice there, Richard James.
Oh, it's so easily done, isn't it? Now, Jamie, what more can you tell us? Where's this all heading then? So we've got these initial 10 episodes.
Yeah.
What then?
Well, I mean, I mean, there's stuff, isn't there? I mean, there's a lot of cliffhanger-y things. You've read the script, you know that there's going to be things left unsolved and unsaid and undone and mysteries and all the usual Anderson stuff.
Great. Nice.
So, and do you know what I realised? That I seem to have borrowed some elements from a Gerry Anderson show that I'm not quite so fond of, inadvertently.
Oh, really?
I don't think we should give any more away, but do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, yes.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Isn't that interesting that I've drawn on something I'm not that keen on? And
yes. Do you think you sort of refashioned it to make it more palatable to you, unwittingly?
I think you could be right, yeah. Isn't that weird?
No, I like it.
Gosh. Anyway, there you go. Positivity, a light shining from the darkness, should we say? Possibly.
Very good. I
okay.
like it.
Anyway, look, I've got to go and prep some more trailers and teasers for First Action Bureau.
Yeah, I've got to go and do my shopping.
Well, there we go. Both crucial activities, so we should go and do those things right now. I'll say goodbye.
Exciting, isn't it? Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.